Hi, this is Jen Rubin, editor-in-chief of the Contrarian. Delighted to welcome back Maria Peralta, the former head of the SEIU political operation, and now an organizer, advisor on all things political and on movements in general. So Maria, welcome back. Great to see you.
Great to be back with you.
Tomorrow is a big day. How has it grown from what you imagined when you first decided to try to mobilize everybody on a single day of action?
Well, I think what we're seeing right now is just a natural trajectory of the energy, the outrage, and the moral clarity that Americans across the country have had since day one of this administration. We've seen a doubling of street protests. I know that folks are watching the data, and for folks that are curious about it, there's been more than twice as many protests compared to 8 years ago. So we're seeing this, kind of resistance bloom across all corners of the country. People have been calling their congressional offices. They've been doing rallies outside of Teslas. They've been, doing one-day economic boycotts. They've been doing rallies. So all of this is really kind of like a natural trajectory that is building to one unifying day of action that where we can really kind of, say to the world that we do not consent to the destruction of our vital government services. We don't consent to the disregard of the rule of law, the attacks on our students, the attacks on our courts, the attacks on our freedom of speech. And we're going to come together to tell the world, and more importantly, to tell the Trump administration and his Republican lackeys that they have to get their hands off our country.
And that is the unifying theme, hands off. How did you come up with that? And what does that encompass in terms of your messaging for tomorrow?
Well, I think hands off is a way for us to bring so many issues together, right? I mean, what this administration has been doing is taking a chainsaw across the board, across all facets of our lives, right? We saw this as Doge was intruding on getting their hands on our personal data, making cuts to Medicaid and Social Security, even though they deny it, they are doing that. Attacking our freedom of speech and our freedom of protest, what you're seeing with the kidnappings of innocent students just being taken to undisclosed locations without legal representation. All of these things are really part and parcel of what the Trump administration is doing to move forward as a authoritarian regime, as a dictatorship, as a monarchy. And so hands off is really our way of saying, hey, all of this is wrong. It's all of these issues, and the hands off message is a way for us to bring all of it together under one core message.
I'm really struck by the contrast between what ordinary people are doing and what some very elite, powerful institutions are doing, whether it's law firms or universities or businesses or media conglomerates. They have immense power, immense wealth, and yet they're capitulating faster than Trump can snap his fingers. That's different than what ordinary people. Does it surprise you, or is that kind of the way it always is when you're combating an authoritarian force, that the elites are the first to get in line and the people have to push from the bottom up?
Yeah, I mean, we heard Cory Booker say it, Senator Booker say it 2 days ago, whenever that amazing feat of endurance took place, where change doesn't come from DC, from within DC, it comes from outside to DC. And that means it's the people, and really it's people summoning up their courage, and it's not a surprise. I mean, the system is rigged, and these elite institutions have been playing their role in this rigged system for decades and decades, and regular people know it and they see it, and it really rises above any political party. And that's why you're just seeing the courage of everyday Americans taking it upon themselves to make their voices heard and dissent.
You mentioned Cory Booker's magnificent speech, which was arguably the biggest political event inside Washington to happen since the Trump administration took power. How important was that? And how important is the economic chaos that Trump has unleashed with the tariffs in terms of mobilizing public opinion and people's recognition that it affects everyone, not just select groups that Trump has targeted?
Listen, Senator Booker's moment, that was extraordinary. It was an act of courage, and he said it. It is a moral moment. I think it was important also as a leader within Washington, D.C., to have him call upon his colleagues to step up because
Yeah.
you've been seeing this moral clarity, as we just said, on the ground. Americans have an extraordinary amount of clarity and moral direction on what's happening. And so the fact that he stood up there and, called upon civil rights leaders, Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass, the poet Langston Hughes. I mean, just incredible rhetorical flourish, but also just very powerful, unifying messages as he also lifted up the stories of his own constituents. He's been getting letters and, just keeping it real
Yeah.
and also lifting people up. Was a very important moment. And I'm hoping that we see more of that coming out of Washington, D.C., because we certainly see that moral courage coming out of America and everyday people. Um,
Now, there is a certain segment of Americans who are very much affected and very much outraged by the political steps that Trump has taken, the illegal steps, the unconstitutional steps. But others who voted for him really thought that they were going to be better off economically. Does the chaos that they have unleashed now on the economy, on the bottom line, on everything from grocery prices to the value of people's 401k, does that potentially bring in an additional group of Americans who now may be more persuadable to join the anti-authoritarian movement?
I mean, I think so. I think, it for a lot of Americans, it is about our pocketbook issues, right? I just went to the supermarket last week and I saw a dozen eggs for $18.
Oh
You
my
know,
goodness.
who can do that, right? And so this is the real deal. Even if you're not tracking the inside baseball of Washington, D.C. and the CR and all these things that may be more esoteric, people know what they're going through in their everyday lives. They know that they're struggling to pay rising rents, their mortgage payments, keeping their kids fed. All of this is reality for people. And I think there is some buyer's remorse. I mean, you see farmers now that are kind of wondering, okay, what are we going to do now, right? With the cuts that we've seen on USAID, cuts to agriculture. Now we have the tariffs. And these tariffs, the way that these things are being done is characteristic of the way this administration has been running the government to the ground. It's a display of gross incompetence, unstrategic decision making, lawlessness, and cruelty. And
Yes.
so, and this batch of tariffs that has no strategic goal whatsoever, it's just punishing the world, will have an impact here in the United States. And you will see people wondering, why did I might, and our moment right now is not to say, ha ha ha, you get what you deserve. No, our moment now is to say, come with us, right?
Yes.
We know what
Yes.
this is. We're calling it out. We see it. We're not fools. So come join us.
Right, right. I think that's an absolute crucial message. I know many people who are sort of embittered about fellow Americans, but there are fellow Americans, and you need a majority to win elections. So everyone is an ally. As we reach the end, tell us a little bit about the scope of the movement, how many activities you think there may be tomorrow, geographically what the spread is, and most importantly, how people find out where they can go.
Absolutely. Well, we have right now 1,500 events scheduled across the country. over 600,000 RSVPs on mobilize.us. So there could be more. The event in Washington, D.C. will be at the Washington Monument. So for anyone who lives in the area and wants to come and join us there, we'll be there. This is also going to be an international moment. There are protests solidarity protests scheduled for London, Paris, Berlin, Lisbon, Calgary, Toronto, Lagos, and other cities and countries. And so it's just going to be kind of a global event for us to say, no, we're not going to put up with this. We're together. We're unified for democracy. We're unified in our opposition to authoritarianism, and we can't be stopped.
Powerful message. And if people again want to find out where they go, they can go to Mobilize USA or US, or they can go to handsoff2025.com. Well, Maria, good luck for tomorrow. I'm sure it's going to be a spectacular day, and I'm sure we will see you soon. Thanks so much for joining us.